galaxy far, far away. And a bookshelf straight out of the 90s. From Thrawn to Dantooine and everything in between. This is Legends Look Back.
Hello everybody and welcome to Legends Look Back, a show brought to you by Utini.com, the Star Wars podcast for people. This is the exact same introduction I did last week. Oh, come on. Let's start it over.
No.
I forgot to change the text. That's a shame. Alright, see if I can come up with one on the fly. Okay, great. Welcome everybody to Legends Look Back, a show brought to you by Utini.com, a Star Wars podcast for people who got the special editions under the Christmas tree in 1998, where we talk about all things Star Wars Legends, celebrating our rich EU history, as well as diving into lesser-known Star Wars classics. I'm your host, Jared Mays, who's now sweating from that mistake. And today I'm joined once again by Freddie C. What is up, Freddie?
Hey everyone, how's it going? We're
Are you rocking a Boba Fett jacket?
Yeah, look at this.
That's
great.
awesome, man.
It's fantastic. It's really cold right now for me. A solid 60
in California. Yeah, it's cold in California. I believe you.
But yeah, I felt it was very, fitting for the occasion. So I figured I might
absolutely.
As well.
Man, I feel like I need to drive to California just to rob Freddie. Oh, they can't see the jacket, Freddie. When you changed your setup,
no.
Meg's gonna have to move you around.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
No, Freddie, go back. Freddie's upside down, everybody.
I was going to fix it.
Yeah, Meg will fix you, Freddie. Don't do anything.
Everyone remain calm. Everything is fine.
Well, not only is it me and Freddie who is ruining everything, but we are, of course, as you have heard her voice already, joined by the Lady of Legends herself, Meg Dowell. Meg, how many Star Wars books did you buy this week?
Technically, sorry, I can never remember where my camera is now. It's over here. What is happening?
We've gone through a big transition on the show. There's a lot to keep up with.
Yeah, everything's great. I technically bought 2 because From a Certain Point of View came out this week.
Yeah, that was not in my list. Forgot about that one too.
And then, what's it called? The Jedi Mind? Is that what it's called?
The one where Heather does yoga.
Yeah, that one. I just got it today because that's just how Amazon is now, I guess.
That's cool.
But here is like the new giant book. Can you see it? What is happening?
I'll see it eventually. They'll see it before I will.
You can't see it. But it's a big book and it's really good so far.
Well, what is it? Did you say what it was? Or are you just like holding it up and hoping that eventually I'm going to see it?
From a Certain Point of View, The Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, okay, sorry. Hey, I've got a lot of Star Wars going on in my life right now. I mean, give me a break. We started off with talking about the Return of the Jedi. Tonight we're talking about The Empire Strikes Back. I've been deep in that world. Let's just say this much. I've been laughing like Yoda all week, if you know what I'm saying. I'm deep in that world. Rebecca my wife told me not to do my Yoda impression on the show. She told me explicitly not to do it. And as always, I did not do what she said. I also got some new Star Wars books. Here's a Utini fave I realized was one of the last 10 Legends paperbacks I didn't own, and now firmly belongs in my collection in the flesh. This copy of I, Jedi, where Luke is gazing off into the distance, and Corran Horn is looking stubborn and fly right there on the cover. And then a couple others that I actually blame Freddie for. I can't even hold these things up. They're so big. Star Wars panel to panel. They are the collections of cover art from the Dark Horse comics. And there's even a picture of slimy naked Palpatine in one of these. And I'll find it. And I cannot wait for us to talk about these one of these days. It's going to be awesome. Here's some for Skooma Joe from the Knights of the Old Republic comics. How about you, Freddie? Did you get any new Star Wars books?
I did. I'll try to see if I can find the actual camera location. But I bought one of the original releases of the Empire Strikes Back novelization, published May 1980. So, yeah, it's
nice. Man, that cover is gorgeous. Is that the Gone with the Wind cover?
Yeah, it is. It is. I don't know if you can see that.
Last night in the what are we calling those live streams that Tom from Del Rey has been hosting with the authors from a certain point of view, Empire Strikes Back. John Jackson Miller waxed poetic about the original trilogy, which is my favorite hobby, is listening to John Jackson Miller wax poetic about the original trilogy. And he talked about the meaning in doing that Gone with the Wind style cover. And I was like ready to go outside and run a marathon. I was so excited after listening to him talk about that. And The Empire Strikes Back is in our consciousness right now. We had this brand new book. It's a canon book, so we're not going to talk about it much tonight. But you know what? It begs the question, well, what does Legends have to say about these side characters and the behind the scenes, the before and after the expanded universe of The Empire Strikes Back for what it was for 40 years, almost, 35 years. And tonight we're going to be diving deep into The Empire Strikes Back and the expanded universe. We're going to be talking about what happened in Legends before The Empire Strikes Back. We're going to be talking about what happened in Legends after The Empire Strikes Back. We're going to be talking about the characters of The Empire Strikes Back, the locations of The Empire Strikes Back, and probably other stuff that I just can't remember off the top of my head. You ready for this, Freddie?
Let's do it.
Man, I could not be more excited. First and foremost, when we're thinking about what is the greatest film ever made, do you think it is, Freddie? I mean, what could possibly rival it? I've got 10 movies that if I'm having a bad day are what I turn on before anything else. But I think critically, and I realize I'm biased. I've got my own Star Wars podcast. I mean, is there any way around thinking that The Empire Strikes Back is the greatest movie ever made? I know we've got Adam with us. He might say, Phantom Menace? But what do you think, Freddie? Is it the best ever?
Yeah, it's definitely my favorite. It always has been, and that was even before I knew everybody else liked it. So it's pretty legitimate for me to, as a kid, to just continuously watch Empire Strikes Back over and over and over and over. And in my opinion, I feel like a lot of what we see in pop culture comes from Empire Strikes Back, right?
Sure.
So I just always related to that. I feel like it was, we had Star Wars. It introduced Star Wars to the fans, and then Empire Strikes Back introduced Star Wars to the masses. That's how I feel about it.
I think one of my earliest memories, it's hard to know exactly where this ranks in the timeline of my earliest memories. It's definitely, top 5 earliest memories, is my mom asking me, son, which is your favorite Star Wars movie? And I remember thinking, oh, I can have a favorite? I remember thinking, I just really like watching those snow speeders whip around the AT-ATs. It's just a ton of fun when it goes between the legs and it falls down and then Luke crashes and he gets out with a lightsaber. You got Obi-Wan going, Yoda the Dagobah system. I mean, it's just an absolutely flawless movie. And it wasn't until I got deep into my Legends fandom that I came to realize that there is a lot that's fleshed out about this movie. There's also a lot that's not fleshed out about this, which is why we've got so much fun with a book like From a Certain Point of View. When it comes to The Empire Strikes Back and Legends, the fact of the matter is there's a lot of content set between A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. But if you think about it, there's also a ton of material after Return of the Jedi. But there's one gap there, those 6-9 months, a year. Trevor's not here, so I can say whatever number I want. He's our timeline guy. There's not a ton of Legends material between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, is there, Freddie?
No, there really isn't. It's almost like a dead zone. Right? It's really interesting.
Yeah. Except for one glaring, massive exception. One of the biggest Legends multimedia stories there ever was in Shadows of the Empire.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that. But before we get to that, we've got to start off with an infamous book on Legends Look Back. That is The Empire Strikes Back before the Empire ever struck back. You know what I'm talking about. We're talking about Splinter of the Mind's Eye. I said it. I said the words. The episode's now cursed. We have talked about one of the most, I'm going to say the worst Legends books. We'll say one of the more off-kilter Legends books, because we're all about positivity here at Utini. This is one of the things we talked about. I believe it was episode 8 of Legends Look Back. They're now all available for the public on Patreon, so you can check that out if you haven't heard it yet. It was a ton of fun. I mean, how crazy was it, Freddie, that we had Heather on the show, and yet there was not a single curse word or dirty joke.
Oh man, yeah, I always think about that.
It's like the greatest miracle in the history of UT.
I don't know how we did
it. She was an awesome guest, but what was almost as awesome, except for not at all, was the actual book itself. I've done a lot of torturous things. I mean, I used to work 12-hour days in Arkansas summers, doing manual labor with people that didn't speak my own language. And you know what? This was a more painful experience than that. Was trying to read Splinter of the Mind's Eye. But, one of the major questions that was raised by this book is the fact that, this was supposed to be the low-budget sequel to Star Wars, if Star Wars was only moderately to not successful, right?
Yeah.
So, in your opinion, Freddie, in what ways did Splinter of the Mind's Eye work as the sequel to Star Wars? Because positivity, but also in what ways did it absolutely strike out?
Yeah.
Empire Strikes Out. That's what it should have been called. Isn't that like a Lego movie?
I feel like it is. Yeah, this is a hard one because Splinter of the Mind's Eye, I guess the best way I can view it is standing back. It was the first EU book, right? Expanded Universe book. It's not the first Star Wars book, but definitely the first EU book. And it really set the pace for what George, he had a backup plan, which was much drearier than what we got, right? It was a fog-covered planet so that there wasn't too much to do with with the set. There was like one dogfight, I think, or no dogfights. I can't remember.
Yeah, there's one right at the beginning of the book.
Exactly, yeah. They try to...
But there's only 3 ships involved.
Yeah, exactly. It just, and I really think Hala was a good character, though, honestly. I think she was a really good character, and I'm sad that she was not brought into the rest of
the crazy wisecracking old woman?
Yeah, she was great.
I don't know if she was great, but she was something.
She was something. But yeah, it's a hard book to picture it in canon. It just can't exist.
There's plenty of room for a Luke and Leia adventure on a weird planet with a weird old lady, but it doesn't especially work as the sequel to what was the greatest movie ever made at that point in time. We do have another taker for greatest movie ever made. Wes says Rocky, but he says, I get this as a Star Wars podcast. I did something, we're all doing movie marathons during quarantine. Doing 2020. I had my wife watch all the Rocky movies, and she absolutely hated every minute of it because she doesn't like violence. But guess who had a ton of fun? This guy. Anyway, that's beside the point. Splinter of the Mind's Eye doesn't exactly work. Freddie's got some great points here. He says that this is really funny here that Luke can swim, which is funny because he comes from a desert planet. But what's the flip side of that, Freddie?
Leia cannot swim.
Even though she was raised as royalty on a planet just teeming with bodies of water. And there's like nice pools, probably. Yeah. Fountains, streams. It's Alderaan. It's like, you just picture peace and tranquility and beauty. But Luke, who comes from the desert, pro swimmer because of the patriarchy. Am I right? I would say the biggest way that it falls short is that there's no Han, right? Whereas The Empire Strikes Back comes up huge with expanding Han as a character, specifically his relationship with Leia. As we get into another book that is kind of like a what if, an alternate universe for The Empire Strikes Back. We talked about it a little bit last week, and that is Infinity's Empire Strikes Back. Freddie, I want to ask, did you catch, and Meg, you can answer this one too, I made a big glaring continuity error in last week's episode concerning Infinity's The Empire Strikes Back. Did you catch what it was?
No, I didn't catch it. What did you say? What did you do,
did
Jared?
Did you catch it, Meg? Anybody in the chat catch my big continuity error concerning The Empire Strikes Back in last week's episode? I'll give you a hint. It's Tauntaun related.
Tauntaun.
Did you find it, Meg? Did you catch this one?
No, I have no idea what you're talking about.
All right, any takers in the chat? I could not, for the life of me, remember last week whose Tauntaun gets sliced open. Which of those Tauntauns saves? What's the plural of Tauntaun? Just Tauntauns?
Tauntauns, yeah.
It sounds weird coming out of my mouth. I could not remember which Tauntaun is the one that Han says, I thought they smelled bad on the outside. Do you know off the top of your head, Freddie, whose Tauntaun gets sliced?
Definitely
open?
Han's
Han's
Tauntaun,
or Luke's?
because Luke's Tauntaun is already in the Wampa's stomach.
Fried chicken.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I got that wrong last week on the show. I talked about how in Empire Strikes Back the Tauntaun dies, and I said it was Luke's Tauntaun.
Yeah.
Well, Luke's Tauntaun has been dead for 40 years now, and he's been that way whether you're watching the movie, reading the book, reading from a certain point of view, or even Infinities, which is totally fine. But the big change that it makes to the story, of course, early on with Infinities is killing off Han's Tauntaun. Could not survive the cold. Is that what happened?
Yeah, it died.
There's a Tauntaun.
It died just before it got to him.
So he couldn't refrigerate heat. He couldn't keep Luke warm in the sleeping bag, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like ramen noodles. We love our noodles here on Legends Look Back.
No.
The other major thing that it does is it shows Leia, becoming the new Hope, because Luke's dead in Infinities. So Leia, of course, has to follow through on Yoda when he says there is another. No, so Freddie, let me ask you just a regular old Empire Strikes Back question here. When you first saw Episode 5, what did you think Yoda was talking about when he said there is another? I mean, us as Legends fans, we've got so much continuity in our heads at this point that it's hard for us to think anything else other than Leia. But can you put yourself back in your childhood shoes?
You know what? I had no idea, to be honest. That was the hardest thing to really determine, because at that point I remember watching it and hearing there is another, and it took me a while to realize, oh, Leia, it's his sister. Clearly, she's the other one. But of course, I remember when Clone Wars came out, everyone was thinking, oh, maybe it's Ahsoka, right?
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure it was always at that point, it was always going to be Leia. Before that, I don't think George really had an idea where he was going to go yet.
I bet you know who it is. Could have been Baby Yoda. Am I right?
Maybe.
No, that would be one massive retcon, wouldn't it?
Could have been Han.
No,
according to the Infinities.
Absolutely, yeah. Han is like, oh yeah, hey Leia, I'm gonna train as a Jedi. Be a pretty cool Jedi, don't you think? And she just, like, in typical Meg fashion, turns to him and is like, no. So that's awesome. We've talked about a couple of alternatives to what the Empire Strikes Back could have been. But we actually have to talk about EU adaptations of The Empire Strikes Back. There are three major ones. Number one is the novelization itself that Freddie has there, and mine is actually serving as a stand over here for Revan and Malik's Funko Pops, and I don't want to disturb them. Otherwise, they'll start fighting with each other, and there'll be cloning tanks, and Basta will have to save the day. It's a whole thing. The one major continuity thing to mention about this, of course, came out in 1980, is the fact that this came out before the movie, right? This came out in April, 6 weeks before the film. Freddie, can you imagine what it would have been like to read this book before the film? Would you have done it?
I would not have done it.
Would you have read a novelization of a Star Wars movie before seeing the movie?
No, never.
Del Rey's ripped that away from us in recent years, and rightfully so, because we're spoiled and we have no self-control. What do you think it would have been like to have the big reveal of Episode 5 spoiled?
It reminds me. It reminds me of the big reveal for the album of Phantom Menace, Qui-Gon's Demise. I'm pretty sure it was called. It was pretty bad.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Quai-Gon's Noble End.
Yeah, there you go. That's what it was.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks, guys.
Qui-Gon's Noble End. And I know people who read The Empire Strikes Back before they saw the movie, and they were pretty, it ruined it for them, for sure. But obviously they still love it. But yeah, I couldn't imagine.
It's one of those questions that I ask myself as a Legends fan. Would I have read the book? 'Cause I love reading Star Wars books. The day they come out, I want to have it in my hands or in my ears or, in somebody's hands reading it to me day of. Now, I'll do whatever it takes. I mean, I used to drive 2 hours to the closest bookstore when I lived in rural Arkansas to get my hands on some of these books. It was that important to me. It was like, books come out on a Tuesday. I get a phone call. Hey, Jared, I want to meet with you in your office. Sorry, I'm out of town today. I've got to get my Star Wars book. So would I have done it? It's hard to know. But I know a lot of Star Wars fans did. And it totally colored their experience of enjoying these movies, whether it was with A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, or Return of the Jedi. And I think even the prequels, isn't that right, Freddie? Did the novelizations come out before the movies?
I believe they might have. I want to say, I can't remember, honestly. It's been a while, but I'm pretty sure that there were a couple that were released. And I had the book, but I would not read it in that case, because I just like you, I had to pre-order everything. I have to have it the day it was released.
Yeah. I do want to make mention to something that Cheryl has brought up in the chat here, which is, going back to a question from a minute ago. She says that, was it always Leia with the other? And something we didn't mention is I actually think, correct me if I'm wrong here, Freddie, and some of the behind the scenes stuff that I've read, Lucas didn't actually know who the other was when he wrote The Empire Strikes Back. He obviously had some scripting help too. And I think he wrote it in as a plot crutch, so that he would give himself flexibility to maneuver in the finale.
Yeah.
So he had a couple of different ideas of what it could be. I think historically, if the timelines are correct, and hey, I could be wrong, because Lucas is always changing his mind when he recaps the history of Star Wars. He's given so many different alternative histories about what has happened. I believe that he did not come up with the idea that Leia was the other in that scene until much closer to the development of Return of the Jedi. Does that check out to you?
I can kind of see that. It was a work in progress until the very end, and even after the movie's release, it was still a work in progress. He was always changing it, adding elements, making it better, cutting it, recutting it, taking things away. Right? It was his art piece that he just constantly worked with.
Yeah.
So,
which leads us back to the special edition.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It all comes back to the special edition.
It does. And personally, I think if he had not done that, I don't know how popular Star Wars would have been. Because it kept a lot of us during that time of the Dark Ages interested, because I was a kid when the re-releases came out. I got to see them in the big screen with my cousin for the first time, and it was pretty magnificent. And without that experience, I don't know if it's so interesting, because we can argue about this, but I don't know if he knew. It just doesn't. It seems like it would be very George Lucas to not know.
The more I think about it, I think that it was like his primary idea that Leia was the other, but that he had not totally decided that she was Luke's sister at that point in the timeline. All right, this is sounding more right to me the farther we go. But I do want to say, if you want more information about the making of The Empire Strikes Back, there's a totally excellent way to celebrate this film for its 40th anniversary. The book that I would recommend, there's several great histories of Star Wars, but the one I would recommend the most is called The Making of Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back, and it's by J.W. Rensler, and I've got to say, it is absolutely massive. I think the hardcover sells for $85 now on the market. You can get it for $15 on Kindle, but it's got all kinds of fun multimedia stuff in there, video clips and audio files, and it is massive. I'll tell you this much. I think it would take you longer to read this one book than it would take to read the entirety of the New Jedi Order. It is absolutely massive. You can take my word on that. Have you checked those out, Freddie?
I have, and we're totally getting rated at the moment by Strictly Casual and Strictly Casual Posse. Hey, everyone.
Well, it's our first grade, Freddie. This is massive. Hey, what's up, guys? We are a Star Wars Legends podcast talking all about the 40th anniversary of The Empire Strikes Back. We are recommending the behind-the-scenes tome by J.W. Rensler that is The Making of Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back. Don't you think he could have come up with a more creative title, though?
You know what? It works.
Pretty straightforward.
It is what it is, man.
Absolutely. Well, we're talking about the adaptations, the behind the scenes of The Empire Strikes Back. We also need to talk about the fact that, yes, there was a novelization, but my favorite area of the fandom in terms of being a Star Wars Expanded Universe fan is the old school NPR radio dramas. And there's a really fun one for the original Star Wars, and it's got all kinds of extra material, the real expanded universe of expanding the universe. Of course, all kinds of stuff from the deleted scenes. It's reincorporated, and it's got great voice actors across the board. Mark Hamill himself reprises the voice of Luke Skywalker. But then when it came to The Empire Strikes Back, they didn't go quite as wild with incorporating new elements and adding in deleted scenes. There's a few little lines of dialogue that are tweaked and expanded, not nearly as much as the original. However, most remarkably, yes, Mark Hamill returns, but also Billy D himself comes back to voice Lando, and it starts off a long chain of Billy D continually coming back to reprise his role as Lando Calrissian. Have you ever listened to these, Freddie?
I have, yeah. I'm a big fan of it, and I think it's solidified Billy D in fandom too, because he loves Star Wars. He loves being Lando. Like, Lando is Billy D, so if anybody was going to play it, it was going to be him or somebody he was cool with. So it's pretty cool, man. I'm so glad that we got to he got to reprise his role, right? Well, hello there.
Yeah. What have we here? Every time we talk about Lando, Freddie, we just de-escalate into you and me doing Lando impressions for like 2 or 3 minutes. It's like clockwork.
Yeah, it is.
It's like mentioning Star Wars galaxies around you. You just start to fanboy and you get all flushed in the face. And, I will say with the NPR radio drama, the number one thing worth mentioning in terms of how it expands the universe is the fact that, and I love this, alright? This is Legends at its wackiest, right? At the climax of Luke Skywalker's lightsaber duel against Darth Vader on Cloud City in the book, because it's all audio. You can't see the minutia in the performance. You can't see the nuance in their eyes. Instead, you've got to announce everything. There's no narration. At least I don't think so, not much.
Yeah.
So Luke audibly announces his decision to jump off the balcony or the gantry into the service shaft there on in the heart of Cloud City, whatever you call that room. What do you call the room where they fight? The room where they fight.
The breezeway.
The room with the catwalk. Yeah. Catwalks are never a good thing in Star Wars. Luke announces his decision. He's like, well, Vader, if you're my father, I guess I'm just gonna jump off this thing and kill myself. And it's so incredibly goofy all these years later. But it does raise a good question, doesn't it, Freddie? Yeah. Do you think that Luke was trying to just escape Vader? Or was he trying to kill himself? I never really thought about it that way until preparing for this show.
I think he was just trying to get away from his dad. Right, you're not my dad, and then just jumps off the catwalk and doesn't really think twice.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's totally a "you're not my dad" moment. Man, as a kid, the mystery of The Empire Strikes Back, the wonder of it—it's got so much in that movie, especially compared to the others, that leaves you just watching it, and it's metaphysical, and you're thinking, what is happening here? Of course, you've got the Dagobah cave, but then also. As Luke jumps off, seemingly to his death, as a kid, I just remember being flabbergasted, my mouth wide open, jaw agape, wondering where is he going and how is this going to end? And then he's just going down the slide, and I was like, I'd kind of like to go down that slide. It seems fun, but can I go down with both of my hands intact, please? If I ever go down a slide, as much fun as that. Maybe lube it up a little bit. It seemed a little bit painful to slide down that thing. The squelches of him sliding down that shaft, isn't it just totally a horrible noise?
Not only does he have his hand ripped off or cut off with the lightsaber, but he's also got to go down a dry slide.
A dry slide. Cheryl makes a great point. She says a slide isn't fun if you don't know where it ends. Which is true. Never considered that. That's why my 2-year-old, when she sees the ones that are twisty with the big, they're covered on the top, she's always like, what do you think about this? Is this safe? You've got 5 seconds to stop me, otherwise I'm going for it. Gotta love her. Nothing like her older sister who would never go down a slide, with or without my help. Well, Freddie, we've talked about the adaptations, we've talked about the alternatives to The Empire Strikes Back. Let's talk about the prequels in Legends to The Empire Strikes Back. First and foremost are the old school Marvel comics. Now, Freddie, this week I downloaded them all off Comixology with grand plans to read them. I couldn't do it, man. They are very different.
They are different.
To try to get through these things. One of these days, though, we'll do a whole retrospective episode of trying to tackle some of the classic Marvel comics. But there's, I think The Empire Strikes Back starts in episode 40. Mm-hmm. So several years worth of continuity, in terms of developing the the expanded universe for what happens before The Empire Strikes Back. In a minute, we're going to talk about the Marvel Comics after The Empire Strikes Back, and I've got a fun tidbit there. Moving on into the books that are a little bit more consequential in Legends, the first that we're going to mention is one that's a little bit divisive. I know that our buddy Rob, not the biggest fan of this one. I myself put it in my top 10, and that is Scoundrels by Timothy Zahn. Freddie, how about you? Are you on Team Rob or Team Jared? Are you positive or negative on Scoundrels?
I'm a big fan of Scoundrels. I like Scoundrels a lot, and I think it's because I also really liked Ocean's 11, and I have to be honest, I haven't seen too many heist films, right? It's just not my genre that I go towards. So Ocean's 11 was pretty cool, and then when I read Scoundrels, I just bought it without realizing that it was an Ocean's 11's style book, right? And I was such a big fan of it.
Yeah. Well, that's what sold me on it. And honestly, my first read through, I was having trouble because you've got a lot of new characters to learn, and the way that it pulls in characters definitely involves some Legends loopholes. It's significant as a follow-up or as a prequel to The Empire Strikes Back for two major continuity reasons. One, Han has already spent that reward money. I remember looking at that big old, like a wagon full of just boxes of gold or whatever it is. A lot of credits that Han receives there on the base at Yavin. And in typical Han fashion, by the time we get to Scoundrels, he's already spent that money.
Yeah.
So we should do a whole episode on this. Maybe Trevor will join us. All the different ways Han loses his reward money in Legends.
There's so many ways.
And then secondly, Han and Lando have a Legends interaction before The Empire Strikes Back in Scoundrels, and yet after Lando loses the Falcon to Han in the A.C. Crispin book. Was that Rebel Dawn where that happens?
Yeah, I think
so. So it's significant for the retcons that it makes. So for me, it took a little while in reading it to kind of get over those interpretive humps where I was like, I'm not sure if I can accept this, because there is one massive twist at the end that totally makes you read the book entirely differently on your second read through. Have you done a read through, a reread of this since you discovered the major twist at the end, which we won't spoil?
No, actually, that was the last time I read it. Was the first time. It was pretty fantastic. Yeah, don't spoil it. It's don't look at the back of the book. I'm sorry I said that.
Zahn absolutely loves his twist endings.
Yeah.
And I would say this is maybe one of his most successful. This one's just fun. Yeah. You're just looking for something lighthearted. It's not something that's going to make you cry. Maybe from tears at the end, from how, cry from joy. I mean, at the end, for just how incredible the twist ending is. So I would recommend Scoundrels, though not everyone would. You've been warned. Secondly, on the list of the, I would say, more important, prequels to The Empire Strikes Back is Razor's Edge by an author who just recently made her return to the expanded universe, and that is Martha Wells. She is in the, from a certain point of view, Empire Strikes Back book. She wrote an Ugnaught story that I've not gotten to yet. It's one of the last books in Legends. It came in the trilogy. Freddie, do you know what the sequel to this one was supposed to be? It was preceded by Honor Among Thieves, the Han book,
yeah, that's right. And wasn't there? Okay, so
there was a third one.
There was a Luke,
and Meg loves it.
Oh no! No.
It was part of it was supposed to be called Empire versus Rebellion or something like that, right? And then it was Han, Luke, and Leia. That was the
just like classic original trilogy novels.
Yep. Yeah.
And so the third one is Heir to the Jedi.
That's right, yeah.
Which ended up being reimagined and told from a first-person point of view. And I'll say this much. Canon can have it. Canon can have it.
Meg's favorite
I'm
book,
not saying
right?
anything about its quality other than the fact that we've got a lot of great Legends books. So, Canon needed its own lookbook. All right. So Razor's Edge, however, is absolutely excellent. The fun thing about it is 80% of it is in Leia's point of view. Can you think of any other Legends book, Freddie, that has 80% of it written from the perspective of Leia?
No. I think it's one of the first ones, honestly, or the only one. And I think that's probably the issue with Heir to the Jedi was it didn't quite flow with the theme, and it kind of sunk, in my opinion. But that's for our other podcast to talk about.
Yeah. I'll say this much about Razor's Edge and Honor Among Thieves. They're excellent. I absolutely love Honor Among Thieves. It's in my top 10 favorite Legends books. And I wouldn't quite put Razor's Edge up there as much, but it's worth the read, especially because of the way that this book is talking about Leia as a leader leading up to The Empire Strikes Back, because you see her as quite the assertive leader in the beginning of that movie. There on the Rebel base at Hoth, everybody respects her opinion, not just as a princess, but as a rebellion leader, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty good. I like it. It's worth a read. It's been a long time since I've read it. I remember it was one of the last Legends books to be published? I think so, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely one of the last 5. Came out in September of 2013. And the frustrating thing about it, Freddie, this is one of our eccentricities that we have in common, is the fact that this is one of the only Legends books that does not have a paperback without the Legends banner.
Yep.
Because we're obsessive in that way. I spent a good amount of time today trying to decide, do I want to go ahead and complete my collection with those paperbacks that never got Legends banner, that never got versions without the Legends banner? Do I just want to go ahead and buy them with the Legends banner to complete the collection? It's a totally obsessive conundrum that I'm in. But hey, Star Wars Legends fan problems, am I right? One final book worth talking about as a prequel to The Empire Strikes Back is a book that actually got 2 different covers, and one that I'm sure that our buddy Cheryl especially loves as a huge Mara Jade fan, and that is the Timothy Zahn's Choices of One. Choices of One, of course, is the sequel to Allegiance. However, we're recommending Choices of One as the prequel, really worth checking out for The Empire Strikes Back for one major reason, and that is this entire book centers around the plot device of both Mara and our heroes, right? Luke and Han and Leia trying to find the Rebel base, like trying to find a new place to set up camp after, obviously the Empire learns about Yavin, so they've got to evacuate, right? Freddie, I want to ask you one question about this book. Which of the covers do you prefer? So we're not even talking about content here. Which of the covers do you prefer? Do you prefer the hardback or the paperback?
This is probably one of the first times that I say that I like the paperback.
Okay. I agree. What do you think in the chat? Do you prefer the hardback or the paperback? 1 for hardback, 2 for the paperback. Here's my number 1 gripe with the hardback. What person's model do you think they use? Whose likeness? What famous celebrity do you think they used to make the cover of Choices of One?
Should I say it?
Because I've got one strong guess that I've thought since I first saw this cover, and it's distinctly not the same image at all that they're using on the paperback release. What do you think, Frank?
Yeah, it's so funny because you wrote it in the show notes, and I have to say 100%.
Once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's Amy Poehler.
Yeah, Amy Poehler,
right?
Yep.
I mean, which kind of makes me want an Amy Poehler Star Wars movie where she's like teaming up with stormtroopers and making jokes when they bump their head on doorways. So somebody make that happen. Is Amy Poehler a Star Wars fan? That's something we're going to have to
For the right
find out.
money, anyone's a Star Wars fan.
Totally. Well, I like the book on its own, regardless of what cover. Honestly, I've never actually read the paperback or the hardback, but I've listened to the audiobook twice. So you can look at whatever you want when you're listening to an audiobook. We've talked about the prequels. We're also going to talk about the sequels here with The Empire Strikes Back and its rich heritage in Legends. And we're right back at the exact same starting place with the Marvel Comics. In issue number 45, I said issue this time, I said episode earlier. Issue number 45, it's the first issue to follow The Empire Strikes Back. There's one glaring continuity error. Do you know what it is, Freddie?
I didn't actually notice this until I saw the notes, actually. I had no idea.
So it's great. It's like a perfect example of just how wacky the Marvel Comics are. Empire Strikes Back is this dark, existential movie about good and evil and identity, and then you come right out of it into the next issue of the Marvel Comics, and it's just like, all right, we're off on another wacky adventure. And in this one, even though Luke has his hand cut off in The Empire Strikes Back, which is holding his father's lightsaber, he's already got a new lightsaber in issue number 45.
Right.
Where'd the lightsaber come from? Is it the same lightsaber? Is it a different lightsaber? It's never explained. No. And it just stays that way. Lots of other comics along the way after this. Luke's just got a lightsaber. Where did it come from? Gotta love those Marvel comics, and one of these days we're gonna do a deep dive. However, there's one major sequel to The Empire Strikes Back in Legends that's definitely consequential in the grand storytelling of the expanded universe, and that is none other than Shadows of the Empire itself. Freddie, what's your history with Shadows of the Empire?
Shadows of the Empire.
I mean, we've got a video game, we've got its own soundtrack, a comic. It's got action figures, it's got everything.
It has.
I feel like Stefan from SNL saying that it's got this and that.
It's true.
What's your history with Shadows of the Empire?
Shadows Empire, just some background. It was a multimedia project for Lucasfilm, and it was basically it was everything: novels, video games, soundtracks, toys. Kenner had a bunch of toys. There was a new starships, trading cards, everything that was touched by Star Wars. Shadows of the Empire had their hands in it, and my introduction to it was actually the N64 game. Believe it or not. That's where I found out about it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. I know this week we've got a couple new console releases. The PS something and the Xbox whatever have both come out. Are you a gamer, Freddie?
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you. I've always been a generation behind. PS5? Is it 5?
PS5, yeah, PS5.
Anyway, it's had a lot of people on the team talking about how in their history of buying some new Star Wars, buying new video game consoles, a lot of people were saying that they first bought the N64 because Shadows of the Empire was a launch title, or very close to being one at least. So they were like, I had to buy a new console just to play this Star Wars game. That's how important this was back in '96, man. I've got quite a few of the action figures myself. I, however, have never read the book. But Freddie, we love to play our games on Legends Look Back. And here's a fun game for us, okay? Hopefully you did not Google this ahead of time. Everybody in the chat, you're welcome to follow along and play this game with us. Here's how the game goes. I'm going to list off a number of Shadows of the Empire related characters, topics, ideas, and the question is, which one of these has not been reincorporated into canon? Okay? Because a lot of things from Shadows of the Empire have made their way back in. One of these, however, has not. And honestly, looking at the list, I don't even remember which one it was. So, give me a second to figure it out. Okay, I've got it. I should mark that for myself for next time, because that could get real out of hand real quickly. Okay, so which of the following has not been recanonized? You ready, Freddie? Yeah. Let's do it. Number 1, is it the Falleen species with their pheromones and ponytails? Number 2, the Black Sun Crime Syndicate. Number 3, the bounty hunters battling over Han's carbonite slab en route to Jabba's palace. Number 4, the ship belonging to Dash Rendar. It's kind of like a knockoff Millennium Falcon, right? It's another Corellian Corvette. The Outrider. Number 5, Dash Rendar himself as a character. And finally, Prince Shizor as number 6. Which of the following has not been recanonized into the Star Wars expanded universe? What do you think it is, Freddie?
Well,
I feel like I need some do-do-do-do kind of music as you decide.
I'm pretty sure Prince Shazar was brought back into Rebels, right? I feel like so just going down the list, the Falleen, the Black Sun. I know I've seen Black Sun in canon. The Outrider, that's a tough one. Dash Rendar.
You're right on Black Sun.
Yeah.
You're right on Black Sun. I'll give you that much.
Dash Rendar, I believe, was brought back in, I think it was like a little adventure story of some sort.
Let me pull it up. He's in canon.
Okay.
So you're right that Dash Rendar, I think it's it's the solo tie-in novel Tales from Vandor.
Yeah. Okay, that's the one.
So he gets an Easter egg in that. So it's like the most obscure tie-in to a movie that a lot of people never saw, right? So it's like, how much is he actually canon? Doesn't matter to me. He's
canon. He's
all
canon.
right. He's back, baby.
Let's see, Outrider. Pretty sure the YT-2400, if I'm not mistaken, is still canon.
It is canon. I'm trying to remember where, but yeah, it's canon.
Yeah,
so you're getting close.
I know they actually had. I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure if it was the Outrider, but there was a YT-2400. Pretty sure it's YT-2400. Correct me if I'm wrong, chat.
It's named explicitly somewhere. All right, what are people's guesses? And Freddie, I need a solid guess.
I'm gonna say number 3. I'm just gonna go with number 3.
Number 3 is. Anybody else want to guess? Which one of these is it? I'll give you the list one more time. Which of these is not in canon? Faline, Black Sun, Bounty Hunters battling over Han's Carbonite Slab en route to Jabba's palace, the Outrider, Dash Rendar, or Prince Shizor. How do you say Shizor? Do you say Shizor? Do you say Zizor?
I think it's supposed to be Shizor.
Shizor is how it is in the audiobook, so, What audiobook? Doesn't matter. Scoundrels, I think. Okay, so it is number 3. The Bounty Hunters battling over Han's Carbonite Slab en route to Jabba's palace is in the Shadows of the Empire comic. That's where that story is especially told, and as far as I know, I'm only halfway into, from a certain point of view, Empire Strikes Back. We really need a shorter title for that dadgum book. Only halfway through that, so who knows? Maybe it's in there. I will say this much, that it's incredible, isn't it? How many of these things have been brought back into canon?
Yeah, it's
at least as Easter eggs.
Almost all. I mean, a lot of content, if you think about it. Black Sun especially has been carried throughout almost everything. Every video game that I feel like I play, I see Black Sun.
Yeah, I was looking for the behind the scenes on what things were recanonized and which things weren't, and I've forgotten where I got some of this information because I was trying not to put it all into the show notes so as to spoil Freddie. But it's mostly from. All right, so here's a fun one. Shizor was first mentioned in the. He was made canon by a cookbook in the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, the official Black Spire Outpost cookbook. There is something called Shizor. What is it? Shizor salad.
Shizor salad.
What's it called? There's something in here named after Shizor. So, first of all, what does that taste like? Second of all, what do its pheromones do for you?
Doesn't matter what you put in the salad; it's going to taste great according to those pheromones.
Oh man, well, let's not talk about the pheromones because that is one problematic part of the book. But I do love how many nods it's gotten in canon, which is a ton of fun. But let's talk about some other characters. Talk about Shizor. We've talked about him enough. Let's talk about some other Empire Strikes Back characters. If you really think about it, there are 4 major characters who were introduced in The Empire Strikes Back, right? So you've got Yoda, Lando, Boba Fett. You ever heard of Boba Fett, Freddie?
Yeah, maybe.
And I'm not talking about the Wampa or the Tauntaun. The other major character is Palpatine himself. Of course, made his initial debut as a monkey, right? Wasn't it monkey eyes on a woman?
Yeah, that's right.
I think.
Monkey eye.
That's that's been replaced, and I would say that's one good way the special edition has paid off with The Empire Strikes Back. But which of these 4 characters, Yoda, Lando, Boba, and Palps, which do you think is the most successful new character in Empire Strikes Back? So we're drafting teams here. Who's your first pick?
I'm going to say this is a tough one because it changes with generation. I would say Yoda has become that character right now, but I would say, Boba Fett. Boba Fett had, 2 lines? 1 line, 2 lines? I forget how many lines he had, and he just
He's
rocketed.
No good to be dead.
Yeah, he just rocketed it off into fandom. So I would say Boba Fett.
And if we're being technical, Freddie, he's not introduced in The Empire Strikes Back. In fact, he's introduced in a Legends story, if we want to call it that. Do you know where Boba Fett made his first debut? Do you know this piece of trivia?
I'm just going to say, we have, we give Heir to the Jedi or not Heir to the Jedi, Jedi. What was it? I forget. Sorry. I tried to delete that one. The one with Luke, point of view.
Both of them are not the best.
Yeah.
Heir to the Jedi.
Heir to the Jedi. We'll give that to canon, but we still have to keep the holiday special, so.
Yeah, so it does come from the holiday special. Freddie, do you consider holiday special Legends?
It definitely.
I mean, it's not canon, is it? It's a George Lucas property, but is it canon?
Oh, they tried to delete it. They tried to delete it from all of our memories. They tried to do a Berenstain, and it just did not work.
Yeah, it never existed. Used the Jedi mind trick.
Yeah.
wave the hands the right way, use a mesmerizing voice. I think, isn't there, we'll see if we can post this in the Discord channel, isn't there an interview where, like, where Harrison Ford was on a late night talk show and Jimmy Kimmel or somebody asks him about the holiday special and Harrison Ford says, what? Like he plays dumb, like he doesn't know what he's talking about. Do you know what I'm talking about? Is this a thing?
No, it's a thing.
I feel like it's a thing.
A lot of people that when it, I'm pretty sure even Carrie Fisher, when she's asked about the holiday special, they're just, I mean, everybody when they talk about it just tries to laugh it off, pretend it really didn't exist.
Oh, and it's getting a sequel of sorts this year, right? The Lego holiday special is coming out soon. Who knows what that's going to be like? But I hope it's got Dash Rendar and or Shizor. Don't know about you. Well, let's talk about these four characters at least a little bit. We're going to give a little bit of recommended Legends reading for each of the four major new characters introduced in The Empire Strikes Back. And the first one is difficult, isn't it, Freddie? There's not a lot of Legends material about Yoda, is there?
No, there isn't. It's very George Lucas didn't want to talk too much about Yoda. He wanted to keep him a mystery, right? Like
that's right.
A 900-year-old Jedi Master. That's pretty fascinating. So he wanted to keep Yoda's background a mystery, and Lucas didn't want people playing in his sandbox that he was about to play in, right? And so there's really just not much about Yoda.
There's one major book I would recommend, and then some other comics as well, though. And I mentioned this on last week's episode. Can't just do this every week where we just like recommend the same books every single episode. Other than Ruins of Dantooine, definitely recommend that one. Yoda Dark Rendezvous is a sleeper hit for me. Knew nothing about it going in. Absolutely loved it. It really shows Yoda coming alongside an underpowered Jedi Padawan who doesn't really believe in herself. I think her name is Scout. And it's a beautiful relationship. You also get to see a little bit of his history with Dooku, how he like believes in Dooku, doesn't want to just believe in Dooku as a villain, but wants to kind of root for the best in it. It's a great Yoda story. It's also a good spooky Halloween story, which we talked about a couple of weeks ago, because you've got Dooku's spooky castle, which is a ton of fun. And then there's some good Clone Wars comics from Dark Horse about Yoda that are also totally worth it. Let me ask you a Legends of Yoda question, Freddie. Do you think that Yoda went to Dagobah, so an heir to the Empire, Timothy Zahn tells this story that Yoda went there to mask his Force presence, right? There was this dark side cave, dark side energy, so he could basically blend in. Which is kind of a twist on the story, isn't it?
Yeah.
So do you think in your head canon, your head legends, did Yoda go to Dagobah mostly, A, to punish himself, to be surrounded by the dark side in order to mask his Force presence, as Zahn posits, or do you think that he mostly went to just snack on reptile eggs? If you watch the latest episode of The Mandalorian, you know what I'm talking about. I think he was popping some reptile eggs like Halloween candy, or why do you think Yoda went to Dagobah in your opinion?
I feel like I read something somewhere. I get a lot of my head canon and Legends and canon mixed up, but I almost feel like in Clone Wars he went to Dagobah and visited this place. But before that that story was written, I think he simply went there because it is a dark Force ridden planet, right? And the way to hide out is in an area where the dark side can mask the light side of the Force. But I know there was a whole arc about it in the Clone Wars where he visited it. I forget the name of the arc, but it was one of my favorites. Oh yeah, later on was that season 6 where he like hangs out with Qui-Gon's Force Ghost. Yeah, and he gets a bunch of visions and stuff, and it's a very mythic episode. It's one of my favorites. Totally. There's other stories in Legends about what happens on Dagobah, especially with that Force Cave. We're going to come back to that in a minute. We talk about the locations. But let's talk about Lando. Lando in Legends, of course, gets his own trilogy. Or now that it's been reprinted as one volume, he's got a pretty dense book, The Lando Calrissian Adventures, which if you think about it, in a way, is kind of a little bit canon-ish. If
if you look at it, and squint the right way, don't you think, Freddie? Yeah. Because in Solo, Lando says, here I was on the jungle moon of Ocean, and I don't know what else there was there, but I haven't actually finished the books. It's one of the few Star Wars books I've DNF'd. Could not make it through the first Lando Calrissian book. I think on Goodreads it still shows that I'm reading it. Spoiler alert, I'm not. But one of these days, I'll read it, totally. So let me ask you this, though, about Lando. As far as the EU's storytelling potential was concerned, what do you think was the most intriguing thing about Lando when you first saw The Empire Strikes Back? He says a few different things, does a couple of different things in the movie to make you think like, hey, I wonder what that's all about. For you, was it when he said, you've got a lot of nerve coming here after what you pulled? Was it about how he became BFFs with a cyborg in Lobot? or was it the backstory of the Falcon? How did Han end up getting the Millennium Falcon from this guy? Which of those do you think had the most storytelling potential?
The crazy thing to me is going back and remembering watching, one of my first 10 times watching Empire Strikes Back, seeing Lando come in, not really knowing anything about his character, right? He's a pretty fascinating character. He's got a lot of background, but you don't know where it's from. You don't know anything about the interaction that him and Han had. You just know that there was some dealing, some gambling, and the fact that he became the Baron Administrator, of Cloud City, through gambling is pretty fascinating. He was such a mysterious but regal character, and I really liked it. He just shone, compared to you see the heroes coming off. They've been through a lot, and then you just see this suave guy with a cape. It's pretty amazing.
That was actually almost on my list, Freddie, was why does he wear capes? And
why not?
I actually thought that the capes were given their moment in the movie, in Solo. He's got like a whole cape closet, which is very extra for sure. So that didn't make it on the list, but clearly it should have. So
cape closet.
It's fun to see the way that Legends explores that initial statement that he says, you've got a lot of nerve coming here after what you pulled. So what did he pull? Is he specifically talking about how Han got the Falcon, or was there something else? And so Legends actually retcons that 3 or 4 times, at least. I mean, who knows how many other short stories or comics explored this that I've never gotten into. Bet you Trevor knows. We'll ask Trevor. So there's a lot here in terms of what you can be excited about with Lando. And if you want to know more about this, of course, we've got a Lando Calrissian reading guide up on youtube.com. We also did an entire episode, the Legends Guide to Lando, a few months ago, and you can access that a number of different ways: YouTube, Patreon. We've got our own podcast feed, and you can check that out as well. But Freddie, I'm going to turn this one over to you because you're wearing your Boba Fett jersey tonight. Is it a jersey? What would you call that?
I mean, it's a jacket. It's definitely a jacket.
Let's call it an outfit.
It's almost like a utility jacket, but outfit.
It's
I'm
nice.
cool with it.
I like it. I'm tempted to fly to California and rob your apartment just to get that jacket. And I guess I could order my own, but in true Lando style, I'd like to pull off a heist. It could be pretty fun. So let me ask you this: there's a ton of Boba Fett stories out there, especially in Legends. What's your favorite Boba Fett story in Legends? There's a ton.
There's a ton.
Especially if you think about the comics.
Especially in the comics. He's a fan favorite in comics, in my opinion. I would say there's a lot of content about Boba Fett, right? You've got the holiday special, which really kind of fleshed him out, and that's where he became a thing, as much as people want to ignore it. He was riding like a Stegosaurus, right, with the rifle that we see in The Mandalorian. So
it's a dewback, isn't it?
I don't remember what it was. It was something.
It's Barney the dinosaur.
Yeah. But I would say I liked him a lot in when he was fighting the Yuuzhan Vong. I don't know if you remember reading a lot of that. The Battle of Mandalore. Basically, Boba Fett was, the Mandalorians were supposed to be part of the Yuuzhan Vong, and Boba Fett went on to the ship of I think he went onto the ship, did some sleuthing around, scanned some things, saw what the Yuuzhan Vong were capable of, and decided, no way, this is bad news. And when the Yuuzhan Vong found out, they just bombed the heck out of Mandalore, and Boba Fett was part of that whole siege. Definitely, like that whole line is pretty fascinating, and seeing Boba Fett in a warrior mentality versus just a bounty hunter mentality is I really liked seeing that about him.
That's a fun story for a number of reasons. He unites the Mandalorians as Mandalore, I think, in that story. He kind of takes up the helm of their leader in order to fight the Yuuzhan Vong. So it's fun because you see him team up with like our heroes, Han, Luke, and Leia, in order to come together against this common cause. And it's really late in, if I remember correctly, in the New Jedi Order, and so Boba Fett's not in it at all. And then it's called Boba Fett, A Practical Man, isn't it?
Yeah.
By Karen Traviss. So he's not in the story at all. In fact, it's like been decades since he's even come up in the novels. It's like, oh, where is Boba Fett? Well, he's out there somewhere. Who really knows? Well, there was like a fake Boba Fett in Boba Fett's armor. I forget his name. It's a whole retcon. But then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, Boba's back, baby. So I love the way that his story develops. Karen Traviss really runs wild with him. My favorite Boba Fett story is like the sequel to that. So it's his story in Legacy of the Force, specifically in Bloodlines, which explores him trying to reconnect with his family. And then the second to last book in that series, so Karen Travis's third book, Revelation, where he trains Jaina Solo how to be a Jedi Mandalorian, which is really legendsy, isn't it?
Yeah, that's super legendsy.
It's as legends as it gets.
Yeah.
But it's not goofy. I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Absolutely awesome. There's some other great bounty hunters that really don't get their moment in the sun, at least not on this episode, but they've got some great stories that parallel nicely with what's happening in From a Certain Point of View, and that is the book Tales of the Bounty Hunters. If you want to get to know Dengar or IG-88 or Zuckuss and Forlom, Bosk in their Legends glory, I would check this one out. Even though I've never read it, one of these days we'll get to it. I only have like 20 Legends books I've never read. We just happen to be talking about half of them on tonight's episode. Do you have a favorite story in that collection, Freddie?
I really like the Tales of the Bounty Hunters, and I just remember when I was a kid, I thought Dengar had a diaper on his head. So it took me a long time to realize that it was just like a scarf of some sort, and just reading about the diaper guy is what I called him.
This one's fun because it only has 5 stories in it, whereas Tales from the Mos Eisley Cantina has like 30. This one only has 5, so it's a little bit more long form. So you've got the tale of IG-88, Dengar, Bosk, Zuckuss and Forlom get a dual story because of course, and then Boba Fett, is the last story in this collection. And I might just have to dig into this a little bit this weekend. I could read at least one of the stories. There's so many books that I'm reading right now. And then they also get a great storyline in the Shadows of the Empire comic, the way that they're competing with one another, against one another, and the way that ends up dovetailing into the Bounty Hunter Wars trilogy. So there's 3 great Legends Recs if you want to get into these lesser-known bounty hunters. But then finally, there's one other major character introduced in The Empire Strikes Back who's got some excellent material worth reading in Legends, and that is Papa Palps himself. You know what my first recommendation is going to be as far as Palpatine's concerned. Here's a hint. He's naked and slimy. And that is Dark Empire itself. We won't talk about that too much. However, if you want to learn more about my love for Dark Empire and why you should love it too, you should check out episode 11 of Legends Look Back. At least maybe that's the episode number, where we talk about the first volume in that trilogy. Freddie, what else would you recommend in Legends with Palpatine?
I would say Darth Plagueis was one of my top favorites. It's definitely in my top 10 books. It's a long read, and you have to be, pretty committed to it. But it really fleshes out his background. You get to understand him, and you really get to see how terrifying he actually is.
The incredible thing is, when The Phantom Menace first came out in theaters in '99, you've got all these posters with Darth Maul's devil face, and you're like, oh, whoever this Phantom Menace is, he looks awesome. Then you watch the movie, and you find out the Phantom Menace was young Anakin. No, the Phantom Menace was Palpatine all along, right? It was a double entendre. Okay. But I'll say this much about the Phantom Menace and Palpatine. Palpatine is also the Phantom Menace of Darth Plagueis. Because for a book named Darth Plagueis, it is mostly a book about Palpatine. Don't you think, Freddie?
It really is.
It's like a backdoor Palpatine origin story. Absolutely one of the best Legends books there ever was. We've got it as one of our highest rated books on Utini.com. If you've read it, if you love it, leave your review for it over on the site. We'd love to hear your opinion on it. There's a couple of others that are excellent in terms of what they say about Palpatine and his role in the story. However, not necessarily Palpatine-centric, and they are both a part of the Dark Lord trilogy, Labyrinth of Evil, and the Revenge of the Sith novelization. Absolutely two of the best Legends books there ever were, don't you think, Freddie?
Yeah, especially the Return of the Sith novelization is in my top 5, undoubtedly.
Now, Meg, didn't you just reread one of these? Is Meg reading one right now?
What am I reading right now?
Okay. Aren't you reading Dark Lord, The Rise of Darth Vader?
Yes, I am. It's been like a month,
okay.
so like, yes.
So you're reading the one in this trilogy that I didn't mention.
Yeah, that one.
That's a real way to throw you for a loop, isn't it? Hey, Meg, aren't you reading one of these books? Am I? No, I'm not. What are you talking about? So F's in the chat for Meg for me almost breaking her brain there. Palpatine's got some great Legend stories and surprisingly few. And they're all excellent reads, though. Now, you're not really going to get into any suboptimal Legends Palpatine stories, are you, Freddie?
No, that's not allowed.
Absolutely not allowed. Well, we've talked about the Legends characters. Before we close out the show, we're going to talk a little bit about the major locations from The Empire Strikes Back in Legends. The first location that appears in The Empire Strikes Back doesn't get a ton of material in Legends. You know, it doesn't appear in a ton of books outside of dozens of reference guides. I mean, it is in basically every Legends reference guide. But, Freddie, it's in basically every Star Wars video game ever. Most of them, of course, get Legends cred. We're going to slap that Legends banner right across the top of these video games. So, Freddie, you're a little bit more of a gamer than I am. However, I played, most video games featuring Star Wars that have come out before this decade. And by this decade, I do mean last decade. Okay. So what video game do you think had the best Hoth?
Oh, this is tough. So, surprisingly, Star Wars Galaxies did not have Hoth constantly. It was like a special game that was only around for maybe 6 months, but it was nixed right after that. They didn't keep it around. I would have to say, I'm pretty sure I played a video game where I used a cheat code to play as a snowtrooper, or a snowtrooper. I would say, what was it? It was the PC version of Rogue Squadron.
Oh, yeah, I think that the Hoth level in Rogue Squadron is excellent. It's really good. I especially liked the Hoth on the Empire Strikes Back Game Boy game. I remember trying to jump over, it's like a side scroller, and you're riding on a Tauntaun, and you're in some sort of a cave. So it's like a whole EU story within a Game Boy game.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that.
Incredibly hard. But there's some great Battle of Hoths. I like the one in Shadows of the Empire because it's linear. It's like you got to destroy these probe droids, and you got to take down these walkers, and then so it's fun in that regard.
Let's not forget
basically.
Battlefronts.
Oh man, absolutely. Now, which Battlefront are you talking about?
I'm talking about the original one.
Yeah, there we go. Absolutely. I remember spending countless hours just trying to defend those shield generators. Defend those shield generators. Well, Hoth doesn't get a ton in Legends books, but Dagobah gets a few special moments in Legends. One we've already talked about tonight is Heir to the Empire. One that has become incredibly relevant since our last episode is Dagobah's appearance in the Anakin solo story, Junior Jedi Knight's Anakin's Quest. Now, do you know why this has become especially relevant for us in the last week, Freddie?
I don't. I've actually never read this, so I have no idea.
In this book, Anakin, Tahiri, and their little ferret Jedi Master Ikrit are going around to several different locations across the galaxy, trying to, get some sort of MacGuffin. I forget what it is. But in this one, they go to Dagobah, which is a ton of fun. Both Anakin and Tahiri have like trippy visions in the Force Cave, which is a really cool way to use that plot device from The Empire Strikes Back to further their character development. But the best part about it is it's got those Makori spiders. That, spoiler alert for the most recent episode of The Mandalorian. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. In the most recent episode, they've got these Makori spiders, right, that came up again in Rebels. Well, they star prominently in Junior Jedi Knight's Anakin's quest. And I've always known them as Dagobah spiders. What about you, Fred?
Yeah, Dagobah spiders for sure.
And that comes, one, from Makori's artwork, but two, from this weird little Legends book. And totally worth the read. You could read it in an hour, I bet, if you really wanted to. Anakin Solo, of course, is many people's favorite Legends character, and absolutely worth investing in. Freddie, let me ask you this on a personal level. I guess the idea of the tree cave is that it would, reveal to you your greatest fear, or maybe that's the way that it's characterized from a certain point of view. Honestly, my continuity regarding the Force Cave is convoluted in my head, just like Legends. So let me ask you this: what do you think you would see in the tree cave? What would your weird, trippy Force vision be, Freddie? Let us into the dark recesses of your consciousness.
Hey, I you know what? I would say a slimy, naked Palps eating, just reaching in a bowl that you can't see the bottom of it. You can't tell what's inside, and you just coming out with a bunch of wet noodles and just eating them.
We're just getting into everything right now. Oh, Meg is going to quit. I mean, we've only been on, 3 episodes?
Yeah.
And we're going to lose her.
It was great working with you guys.
See you, Meg. I got to say, I've got one recurring nightmare, which always happens on Saturday nights. I got to get up to preach the next morning. The nightmare is always this. I get up to preach, and I have no sermon and no pants. So that's probably what would happen to me. A little different than what happens with Palpatine, okay? For Palpatine, he's naked on purpose. For me, in my dream, I'm naked because it's like my greatest fear. So that's probably what I would see in the tree cave. However, not especially Star Warsy. So if you can think of a better answer, let me know. Let us know, everybody. What's your greatest fear? And how can we exploit it to embarrass you for the rest of your life? In the Discord or in the chat here. It's kind of an intriguing existential question, though, don't you think? What would you see in the tree cave? So just read your copy of The Jedi Mind, take some time in solitude, and then report back. Seriously, we want to know. Does it involve noodles? And finally, the last major location from The Empire Strikes Back that gets a few shout-outs in Legends is Cloud City itself. We got one last game, Freddie, before we close out the episode. It's another one of these. Which of these never happened, okay? Which of these things never happened on Cloud City and Legends? And this was a fun one to come up with because the things that happened on Cloud City and Legends are amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Number 1, did Bail Organa lead a slave revolt on Cloud City? Number 2, where's Eric? Somebody page Eric. Number 2, did Starkiller battle a Gungan bounty hunter? Number 3, did a Solo family member, was a Solo family member other than Han ever frozen in carbonite in Legends? D, were the Solo twins ever, I'm messing up these questions. Did the Solo twins ever encounter the daughter of Han's arch nemesis, Galandro, from the Brian Daly books? You know, the gunslinger, Galandro. And finally, number 5, did a Hutt ever win Cloud City from Lando in a card game? So which of these things never happened? Because 4 of them definitely, totally happened. Yeah. I know they all sound unbelievable.
They do. That's the funny thing. Just hearing you say it.
Meg, I'm going to ask you too. So think about it. All right, Freddie, what's your guess?
I'm going to say my guess is number 3 because I know at least 3 of those 5 I've clearly remember. The other 2, I would say 3 and 4. I get a little confused, but I'm almost positive they met. I forget her name. The daughter of Galandro. They met her on Cloud City. So I'm gonna go with number 3.
All right. So your guess is number 3, which is on my list. That a Solo family member was frozen in carbonite. Okay, so what are your guesses? Everybody in the chat, let me know. And Meg, what's your guess? What do you think? Which of these is least unbelievable? Well, you think Skooma Joe says his guess is number 2, that there was no Gungan bounty hunter.
Cheryl has it pretty straight.
What do you think?
She has no idea.
What does Cheryl say? No friggin' clue. Yeah. Legends is very crazy, for sure. Meg, what do you think?
I'll also go with number 2.
Well, that one definitely happened.
Oh. So
that happened in The Force Unleashed 2, where Galen Merrick, or Starkiller, I don't know, it gets convoluted because there's a clone, or maybe there's not a clone. It's left a little bit up in the air. He battled a Gungan bounty hunter on Cloud City because 2010 in Legends. Bail Organa also led a slave revolt on Cloud City. I'm trying to remember what story that happened in. I think it's a short story, so we'll have to call in Trevor on that. I definitely need to read that one.
Pretty sure it was
sure
Ugnaughts, right?
Somebody wrap that Legend story and mail it to Eric for the holidays, please.
He would love it.
Number 3, another solo family member was frozen in carbonite. That actually happened in canon. So that happened in a canon story. I won't tell you what, so as not to spoil it, or to tell you who. But that is canon now. And then the other 2 on the list are also true in Legends, that the Solo twins encountered the daughter of Han's arch nemesis Galandro, and that a Hutt won Cloud City from Lando in a game of cards. And, Freddie, I'll tell you this much about Cloud City. It's featured in Star Wars Galaxies, isn't it, my friend?
They've got it in Star Wars Galaxies.
Oh, man. I actually have no idea what Star Wars Galaxies even is. Is it a shooter? Is it a strategy game?
It's an MMO game. Open world. You can have your own house, any planet.
Oh, that's cool. I might have to check that out. That sounds fun. I like building houses. I'm in the middle of trying to build one in Minecraft, but my 2 little kids keep trying to help me. Mess it up. And, it's difficult. So I won't let them play Star Wars Galaxies. I'll play that one with Freddie. I will say this much about recommended Legends reading with Cloud City. I would recommend checking out Force Unleashed 2. It's got some great Cloud City stuff. And then also Young Jedi Knights Trouble on Cloud City. Is the story where Jason and Jaina encounter the daughter of Han's arch nemesis. It's great because you've got like these 2 generational legend stories taking place on an original trilogy planet. It is just like the peak of Legends, don't you think?
And I would say,
it's like
out of all art, McQuarrie's art of Cloud City was just beautiful.
Oh, absolutely. I need to get a big frame of that. Take down like the big piece of art that my wife painstakingly painted for 3 weeks and hung up in our living room. I'll just replace it with Cloud City. Don't tell my wife. It'll be a Christmas gift. All right. As we close out the episode, Freddie, one final way to celebrate The Empire Strikes Back. What's your favorite moment? Your favorite quote? What's your favorite thing about The Empire Strikes Back? Let's celebrate this masterpiece of a film. Everybody in the chat, let us know what's your favorite thing about Empire as we close it out. I'll tell you mine. I love this quote. All right. Lando's not a system. He's a man.
That's a good one.
Isn't that amazing?
That one,
Meg,
just slides right past you every time you watch it. You're like, woof. That was a good one.
It's buttery smooth. Meg, did you notice that on Utini.com I changed the header quote on the Lando collection from the quote that was there to Lando's not a system, he's a man?
I didn't notice before, but I do now.
Here's the question, everybody. Will Meg let me keep it up? That's the real question. Will it stay on the site? And I also like when Yoda says, "Wars not make one great." I especially like that one. And I did the Yoda impression again. Nobody tell my wife. Okay, Freddie, what's your favorite Empire Strikes Back moment?
This deal's getting worse all the time. Definitely my favorite. I think what I liked about it the most was the Robot Chicken take on it, where every time something would happen, he just continually said, "This deal's getting worse every time." Yeah, I like that one a lot because you see that Lando really tried to save his friends despite him doing what he had to do. He had to do it. He had to do what he had to do, and I liked seeing that part of him. And then I think the one that I always wish I could say to somebody if I was mad without laughing is, "Why, you stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking nerf herder." Just imagine being Carrie Fisher reading that, and you're just like, I have to say this?
She does great with it. I think I say this quote every single week. In some form or fashion, I end up saying, "Who's scruffy looking?" What's the context for it? I couldn't tell you. Next time it happens, I'll write it down and report back on the show. How about you, Meg? You got a favorite Empire Strikes Back moment? In the chat, Cheryl says that she loves the budding romance between Han and Leia, which and the funny lines, of course, between the two of them. Which absolutely, that's definitely true. What do you think, Meg? Freddie, I've got to say, I've never seen the Robot Chicken Star Wars stuff, so I might have to check that out for next episode. Meg, what's your favorite thing about Empire?
I really, really enjoyed Luke training with Yoda.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty iconic, but like, that's the part that I enjoy watching the most. I don't know why. But
Mark Hamill gets all sweaty. There's snakes.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, I mean,
Yoda's in a backpack.
I also say, we would be honored if you would join us like way more often than you'd think would be necessary, but
it makes for a good thing to post on social media.
It
for
sure
sure
does.
It was made for Twitter. Meg, is it because you're a runner? Is that why you like that scene so much? For me, that's why I like it. It's like, hey, Luke is a runner.
Sure.
Can you imagine trying to run with a Jedi Master on your back?
Doing flips
through the jungle? Yeah, I would definitely, it would make your times go down on Strava for sure. Well, this has been a ton of fun. If you want some related reading to check out more than we've been able to throw at you in this episode, we've got some great collections on Utini.com. We've got collections centered around The Empire Strikes Back. Hint, hint, I used it as a template for this episode. We went beyond that, but that was our starting point as we were looking to celebrate this film because, honestly, we needed to delay another week because we were not ready for The Last Command Roundtable, and by we, I mean me, because I got distracted with another book. Because Star Wars. Now, you can also check out the collection. So that is to say, it's not Cheryl's fault. It was my fault. We are looking forward to getting into that. In the meantime, you can do some reading up on Yoda, Lando, or even Boba Fett. We've got collections on all of them on Utini.com. As I mentioned, next week is going to be our two-part roundtable kicking off with The Last Command and our incredible special guest. The hype is massive. I mean, the anticipation for having Kirill come on the episode, the fact we delayed another week, it's just going to make it that much more special, don't you think, Freddie?
Absolutely. I can't wait.
And I've got to finish that book. Oh, my goodness. Because from a certain point of view, it's massive. I mean, it's just a big book. There's a lot to it. So I'm going to have a lot of reading this weekend. Well, that does it for this week. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for Legends Lookback. Thanks especially to Meg, our producer, and Nathan, our video editor. Thank you also to our incredible patrons, some of whom are with us right here in the chat tonight. Thank you for making it possible for us to break out from behind the paywall and onto your phones. And now, of course, that we're live on Twitch, you can help us out by subscribing, either the old-fashioned way with Prime Gaming, or just by the old-fashioned way, or by Prime Gaming. I'm clearly great at this Twitch stuff. Anyway, if you've got some feedback for us and want your question read on the show, leave us a voicemail. You can call this number, 508-686-1158. That's 508-686-1158. And Freddie, we did get our first voicemail, which was especially exciting. I saw that pop up and I was like, what is this? Is this the thing? It's happening! It's happening! Pretty excited. Or you can email us, legendslookback@utini.com. You can also join the Legends Look Back Discord channel and put your questions, thoughts, concerns, complaints there. Or you can find us on Twitter. I am at Jared Q. Mays. Freddie?
At Diaper Guy Bounty Hunter. Or Wake Up Freddy.
Oh my gosh. It's better than Spready Freddy. That was a rough one. And Meg is...
At Meg Dowell.
See, why can't you just do it like Meg, Freddie? Why can't you just play by the rules? Just say the thing. On the cue. Oh my gosh. If you're looking to buy some of these books and want to help support the show, look up a book on Utini. Click the Amazon link in the profile and we'll get a few cents to help keep the lights on. Another way to help us out and show your love of Utini is by grabbing some swag from Teespring, including all new line of merch that we just announced. We've got long sleeve tees. We've got pocket tees. We've got things that are not even tees, such as zip up hoodies. And because it's 2020, the coolest masks in the galaxy. Don't tell Revan, because, I mean, he's got a cool mask and everything. But Joxy's masks are better, don't you think?
They're pretty amazing.
Anyway, if you've read any of these books, head on over to Utini.com and leave us a review. Let us know what you think. And in the meantime, remember to keep the Utini fan code and be a force for positivity in the fandom. Good night, everybody, and may the force be with you.
This is a Utini broadcast.